Welcome back to 32 Teams in 32 Days. I'm Ben Jackson, and if you've been following along, you know the drill by now. We're breaking down every NFL team's offseason plans one by one leading up to the 2025 NFL Draft. Today, we're diving into the New England Patriots, who hold the number 4 pick and are staring down a critical offseason. Last season was rough, but maybe, just maybe, they found their franchise quarterback in Drake May. Now it's up to Mike Vrabel and the new coaching staff to build around him. Can they fix the offensive line, find playmakers for May, actually convince someone to take their money in free agency? We'll break it all down, the cap situation, biggest needs, and how they should approach the draft. Let's get into it. All right, last offseason they hired a new head coach, moving on from Bill Belichick to Gerard Mayo in January 12th of 24. They drafted Drake May 3rd overall. After having a solid defense in 2023, there was reason for optimism. If they could get a quarterback, get the offense on track in 2024, maybe they could get this thing pointed in the right direction. Didn't happen. They ended up with 4 wins, and looking at their EPA per play numbers on offense, they were 24th passing and 30th rushing, so surprisingly good actually on the passing side. That's kind of why people think that May have what it takes for the future, along with what he showed by using his legs as well. Unfortunately, weren't able to run the ball very well. The offensive line really bottomed out, had some real personnel issues there. Tried to sign a free agent tackle and use a 3rd-round pick on another one. Neither of those guys ended up starting, and they had a bunch of injuries on the interior, just a whole bunch of problems there. Defensively, they were 29th against the pass and regressed to 24th against the rush, so significantly worse. They blitzed. They had a high blitz rate against the pass, but a low pressure percentage, so they weren't able to get pressure even when they blitzed. So that was very problematic for them defensively. Changes as a result of this poor season. Gerard Mayo was fired, and Mike Vrabel was hired as head coach. Practically the whole coaching staff and front office turned over after that. GM Elliott Wolf is still there, but there are new coordinators. So Josh McDaniels is back as offensive coordinator. The question is, was that a forced marriage? Was that a Bob Kraft hire? Some people think maybe so. That's not the official line, but that's what some insiders are saying. Interesting to watch going forward. If Vrabel struggles, will Kraft make a play to give Josh McDaniels his 3rd head coaching job? I couldn't believe that I was hearing some of the beat writers speculate on that. As hard, bad as McDaniels has flamed out in his last 2 jobs, but it could happen. Terrell Williams is now the new DC. He was the defensive line coach in Detroit. You may know they had a lot of injuries on defense, but still performed pretty well. So Ryan Cowden is the vice president of player personnel, the 2nd in charge. Vrabel wanted him to be GM in Tennessee, but the owner wouldn't hire him, so now he's here in New England. And again, for now, Elliott Wolf is still the primary decision maker as the executive vice president of player personnel. There's been speculation that he may step down after the draft as they step into the new scouting season this summer, redo the scouts, and maybe let Cowden go to the head honcho in the front office. So we'll see how that goes. Heading into free agency and the offseason roster moves, first thing we got to look at is they do have $112 million in effective cap space. So the checkbook is wide open. That's first in the league in cap space. First thing I would do is look at some re-signings. You can pretty much re-sign anyone that you think seems like they would be useful. Austin Hooper, their 2nd tight end, qualifies with a 92nd percentile PFF grade, playing over half the snaps. I would look to bring him back. He also played for Vrabel in Tennessee, so easy fit there. Now their top immediate needs are offensive tackle. They need 2 starters there to protect Drake May and open up holes in the running game. A receiver, they have lots of young pieces, but no real substance. So they drafted 2 receivers last year in the 2nd and 4th round. Unfortunately, they combined for 99 receiving yards. Couldn't even get 100 yards out of 2 draft picks. That is pretty stinky. They played Kayshon Boutte at one receiver spot and Kendrick Bourne at the other one. Their slot receiver, Pop Douglas, actually had the most production there. You got to go get a number 1. You got all this money, go get a number 1 for your young quarterback if you can at all. On the defensive line, Dietrich Wise is a free agent, but he has gotten on the wrong side of 30. They really need a lot of help. Again, the pass rush struggled. They could use 2 defensive ends and at least 1 defensive tackle. Kind of depends on what kind of scheme you want to run. They have been more of an odd front team in the past, but I think that Vrabel will look to be more of an even front, maybe 4-2-5 base defense. So we'll see what he decides to do with that. At cornerback 2, Jonathan Jones is 31, and he is a free agent who is not very effective this year, so I think they need to go get someone on the market. Plenty of money to do that. Again, on the interior offensive line, their center is like 32, David Andrews, and he's coming off an injury, so he may be done for his career. If you get good health, you may be one good piece away. You've also got a couple of young guards that could develop into a starting job, so maybe think about a safety if Andrews is done. And at the running back spot, you could upgrade. However, McDaniels was here when Stevenson got here in 2021, so he may have a fondness for him. He may want him to be the starter, but they certainly could improve at that spot. There's just not much in free agency at the running back spot, so we'll see what they do in the draft. As far as free agent fits, I would be thinking about players from Tennessee for Vrabel, New York Giants, which is where Cowden was, Raiders, where McDaniel was, and Detroit, where the defensive coordinator was. Wonder if they'll have relationships at those places. So I kind of skewed a little bit towards those teams with some of these picks and just high-ticket guys to help them out a lot. So offensive tackle, I think the best guys they could get would be Ronnie Stanley from Baltimore or Robinson from Minnesota. Brown was also here in the past. He was with Cincinnati this last year, but he hurt his knee early in the year, so he's coming off an injury. Big guy. If he can get in shape, or if you think you can get him in shape, I think that he could satisfy maybe your right tackle spot. At receiver, the big ticket guys would be T. Higgins or Chris Godwin from Tampa. Third guy, maybe Amari Cooper. Hopefully you can get one of those 3 guys right there. Defensive end, again, just looking at the big ticket guys, Josh Sweat and Chase Young would be 2 guys that could help you off the edge. At defensive tackle, a couple guys that might have connections, with the coaches, Levi Onwuzurike from Detroit and Sebastian Joseph Day from Tennessee. If they let him get away, those guys could help you out. As a number 2 corner, really Carlton Davis from the Lions. A lot of teams would probably look at it as a number 1 corner, but you would have the cap space to bring him in as a number 2 if you want to. And then a little bit lower on the budget, maybe a shorter term fix. Adoree Jackson didn't start that many games with the Giants, but when he did play, he played pretty well. So he would be a little bit more of a budgetary conscious guy. And then, outside of these picks, I really wouldn't be mad if they just signed the top guy at any particular position that they have on their free agent board. So like Trey Smith from Kansas City or Zach Bond from Philly. If you want to go get those guys, absolutely. J.K. Dobbins at running back, I don't care. Anybody that you think can help your team, go spend that money. As far as picks, they have an extra 3rd from the Matt Judon trade and an extra 7th. Their main needs in the draft, if they can't get 2 offensive tackles, they'll need that. Defensive line, any pass rush help that they can get still. Running back, interior offensive line, I think these would be lower down needs, as well as more of a coverage, kind of speedy linebacker, or a free safety. They have like some strong safety types, but no real free safety. So for a 3-round mock draft, I went into the simulator. Actually used a different site this time. So with my first pick, Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter were both on the board. I did decide, to kind of stay true to my impression of these prospects, kind of my own board, and what I'm seeing out there with the consensus boards. I picked Abdul Carter out of Penn State to work on that pass rush. In the 2nd round, Josh Connerly from Oregon was still on the board, and he is a guy who has gotten bull rushed some at the Senior Bowl this week, but I still think he is a good long-term left tackle prospect, a really good pass protector, and would help Drake May to not have to be running for his life all the time, so I chose to go with him. Kenneth Grant was still on the board at defensive tackle, and it's a little bit higher on the consensus board, but he's a 340-pound type guy. Didn't really think he would help my pass rush, and so I thought Connerly would be a better fit. In the 3rd round, with my first pick I went with Azariah Thomas from Florida State, a guy who's been rising on the boards, made Daniel Jeremiah's top 50 list. Tall, press man corner, and I think would be a good long-term fit at that number 2 corner spot. A couple defensive tackles were still on the board, Deion Walker and Omar Norman-Lott. A little bit bigger guys, but still would help this rotation out. You're seeing that there's defensive tackles at nearly every spot that I could be going with. In the third round, 13th pick, I went with interior offensive lineman Gray Zabel, someone that a lot of people have been talking about at the Senior Bowl, played tackle at North Dakota State, but getting a chance to see him play against some of these defensive linemen, people think he'll be a quick fit at guard and could potentially be a center as well. So with some of the uncertainty on the interior line, I think he'd be a great fit. Again, Norman Lott was available at D-tackle, as well as Alfred Collins from Texas. And then running back Cam Scadaboo is, I think, someone that would fit into the power run schemes that Josh McDaniels tends to like to run. So I think he would start to be an interesting fit around this area as well. All right, so in summary, first of all, I'm rich, or shut up and take my money, whatever meme you want. We got a lot of money to burn. You got to build around Drake May, fix the pass rush, and start building whatever defensive scheme Vrabel and the defensive coordinator want to implement. I would predict in free agency, get 1 to 2, ideally, offensive tackles if you can. Go get yourself a number 1 wide receiver for your young quarterback. Need a second corner to play across from Christian Gonzalez. And then go try to work out on that pass rush. Any sort of star power that you can bring in, just try to fix your team, try to improve your team anywhere that you can. In the draft, focus on the trenches and build for the future. And that's pretty much the plan. So, the Patriots, again, have a league-high amount of cap space, but the real question is, will they use it wisely? With Mike Vrabel now in charge, you'd think they're set up for a strong offseason. But, behind the scenes, there's a lot of intrigue, a little politics as far as who's really calling the shots, how thing's going to end up settling out as far as the power for this front office. The world is their oyster right now. If they spin wisely, they can reshape this roster and build a real contender very quickly. But if they follow the same old Patriots approach from the past of overpaying for some average talents, who knows when they'll get a shot like this again. So now I want to know, what do you think? Which moves do the Patriots need to make to compete in the AFC East? Drop your takes in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's episode, hit that subscribe button and join me tomorrow as we break down our next team, which will be probably the Jacksonville Jaguars. We could get a late Friday news dump of a Saints head coach, and we may do the Saints then, but Jacksonville or the Saints next. Until next time, I'm Ben Jackson. Thank you for tuning in to 32 Teams in 32 Days, and I'll see you in the next one.